Crippled Avengers didn't play by the rules. It shattered them with iron fists and broken bodies. A martial artist loses his sight, another his legs. A blacksmith's son goes deaf and mute. And the villain? He created every single one of them. These are 20 weird facts about Crippled Avengers. And the bonus? Let's just say one actor's injury was so real, they wrote it into 3 more movies. Strap in. This gets brutal fast. The title alone sparked a war before the film even reached theaters. Shaw Brothers originally wanted to call it The Return of the 5 Deadly Venoms, banking on the massive success of their previous hit. Marketing loved it. Posters were designed. International distributors were on board. Then someone in the censorship office actually watched the film, and everything stopped. They said the original Chinese title, Can K, which translates roughly to the crippled or the handicapped, was too offensive, too direct, too cruel. Western distributors panicked even harder. In America, they renamed it Mortal Kombat. In the UK, the Super Cripples. In Germany, 5 Deadly Venoms Part 2. Every country tried to soften the blow or ride the coattails of the previous film's success. But in Asia, where Shaw Brothers held firm, the title stayed raw and unfiltered. Director Chang Che didn't apologize. He said the film wasn't mocking disability, it was weaponizing it. The characters weren't victims, they were warriors who turned their limitations into advantages. Still, the controversy never died. Even today, the film exists under at least 7 different titles, depending on which country's version you find. That confusion, it started before frame 1 ever rolled. Chang Che wasn't known for restraint, but Crippled Avengers pushed even his limits. During pre-production, the script outlined the villain's revenge in brutal detail. A son's arms chopped off, eyes gouged out, legs destroyed, eardrums shattered. The studio read it and immediately called a meeting. They told Chang it was too much, too graphic, too disturbing for audiences. They wanted him to tone it down, maybe show the aftermath instead of the act. Chang refused. He told them the violence had to be seen, had to be felt, or the audience wouldn't understand the rage driving the story. So they compromised. Sort of. Chang agreed to film alternate versions of the most brutal scenes, softer angles, implied violence, cutaways. The studio thought they'd won. But when Chang delivered the final cut, he'd used almost none of the alternate footage. Everything stayed. The arms, the eyes, the blood. The studio was furious, but test screenings proved Chang right. Audiences weren't disgusted. They were riveted. They wanted revenge just as badly as the heroes did. And that visceral response, that gut punch of empathy through violence, it became the film's signature. The version that almost got buried became the version everyone remembers. Because sometimes the darkest path is the right one. Lu Feng played the villain, and he didn't hold back. As Du Tiandao, the iron-fisted tyrant who cripples anyone who crosses him, Lu brought a cold, calculated cruelty to every scene. But off-camera, he was the opposite. Between takes, he'd check on the stunt performers, make sure the younger actors were okay, even help carry equipment. The cast loved him, which made filming the torture scenes almost unbearable. When Lu had to sever Chiang Sheng's character's arms on screen, the 2 actors had become close friends. They'd trained together for weeks, eaten meals together, laughed between takes. And now Lu had to look his friend in the eye and swing a fake blade toward his limbs, while Chiang screamed in fabricated agony. The first take, Lu couldn't do it. He stopped mid-swing, apologized, and walked off set. The crew took a break. When they came back, Lu said he needed to separate himself from the character completely, so he stopped joking around. He stopped making eye contact with the other actors. He became Du Tiandao, not just in costume, but in energy. It worked. His performance became terrifying. But after filming wrapped, it took Lu weeks to shake the role. He said playing that much cruelty, even fake, leaves a mark. And some stains don't wash off easily. The training sequences weren't movie magic, they were survival. Before cameras rolled, the Venom mob actors, Chiang Sheng, Lu Feng, Sun Qian, and the rest, spent months in brutal preparation, not learning choreography, learning how to fight while disabled. Chiang had to master movement without arms, balancing weapons between his shoulders and chin. Sun Qian trained blindfolded for weeks, navigating rooms, sparring, even eating without sight. Philip Kwok, playing the legless fighter, spent hours in a custom rig that strapped his legs behind him, forcing him to walk on his hands for extended periods. The pain was immediate and constant. Blisters turned to calluses. Muscles tore and rebuilt. Stunt coordinator Tang Chia didn't let them ease into it. He said if the audience didn't believe the disability, they wouldn't believe the triumph. So the actors suffered for authenticity. During one training session, Sun Qian, still blindfolded, misjudged a jump and slammed into a wall, splitting his lip. They didn't stop. They just wrapped it and kept going. By the time filming started, these actors weren't pretending to be disabled fighters. They'd physically transformed into them. Their bodies knew the movements. Their instincts adapted. And when you watch the final fight sequences, that's not acting. That's muscle memory earned through weeks of pain. The realism everyone praises, it cost blood.
It isn't easy for an ordinary man to learn Kung Fu.
Philip Kwok's legs were strapped behind him for hours at a time, and it nearly destroyed him. The legless fighter, Hu Ah-kun, required Kwok to perform entire fight scenes walking on his hands, balancing his body weight on his palms and wrists, while executing complex martial arts movements. The custom harness that bound his legs cut off circulation after 20 minutes. His hands swelled, his wrists screamed. The first week of shooting, Kwok could barely hold chopsticks at dinner. His hands shook too much. The medic on set warned him he was risking permanent nerve damage, but Kwok refused to stop. He said if he used a stunt double for the wide shots, the audience would know. They'd see the switch. So he pushed through. Between takes, crew members would help him out of the rig, massage his legs to restore blood flow, then strap him back in for the next scene. During the climactic fight, Kwok performed a spinning kick while inverted on his hands. One take, no wires. When he landed, something in his left wrist popped. He finished the scene, smiled for the camera, then collapsed. They rushed him to the hospital. Fractured wrist, severe tendon strain. The doctor told him he'd need weeks of rest. Kwok took 3 days off, came back with his wrist wrapped, and finished his remaining scenes. Years later, he admitted that injury never fully healed. He still feels it when it rains. The price of authenticity, paid in cartilage and bone. The weapons weren't props, they were real. Shaw Brothers had a legendary armory, stocked with genuine steel swords, iron staffs, and weighted chains. For most productions, they'd swap in lightweight replicas for safety. But Chang Che insisted his actors train with actual weapons to build the right muscle memory, the right weight distribution, the right respect for the danger. During Crippled Avengers, that philosophy nearly killed someone. In one scene, Lu Feng's character swings a massive iron dao, a single-edged broadsword, weighing nearly 12 pounds. The choreography called for a sweeping arc that would pass inches from another actor's head. They rehearsed it a dozen times with a wooden prop, perfect every time. Then, they switched to the real blade for the close-up. First take, Lu's grip slipped. The sword's momentum carried it off course, the blade whipping past the other actor's face so close, it sliced through the air with an audible whistle. If the actor had leaned forward even an inch, the sword would have split his skull. Everyone froze. Lu dropped the sword and staggered backward, shaking. They took an hour break. When they resumed, they used the wooden prop for the close-up and added the metallic sound in post-production. Chang never admitted the mistake publicly, but after that day, the weapons policy quietly changed. Real steel for wide shots and training, replicas for anything involving another actor's head. Because in Kung Fu cinema, authenticity has limits, and one of those limits is decapitation. The blind fighter's training wasn't just for the film. Sun Qian, who played the blinded hawk, took his preparation to an extreme that shocked even the veteran stunt coordinators. For 2 months before filming, Sun lived significant portions of his daily life blindfolded. He'd wake up, tie a cloth over his eyes, and navigate his apartment. Make breakfast, get dressed, walk to the studio. He said the only way to truly understand spatial awareness without sight was to remove sight completely. At first, it was disaster. He burned himself on the stove, tripped over furniture. Once, he walked straight into a doorframe and gave himself a black eye. But gradually, his other senses sharpened. He learned to identify people by their footsteps, their breathing patterns, even their smell. On set, when Sun performed fight choreography while blind, he wasn't faking. He'd memorized the spacing, the timing, the exact distance between himself and his opponents through sound and air displacement. During one take, a stunt performer missed his mark by several feet, but Sun adjusted mid-strike, redirecting his attack based purely on the sound of the man's movement. The crew burst into applause. They'd never seen anything like it, but the cost was real. Sun admitted that even after filming Wrapped, he struggled to readjust to using his eyes for spatial judgment. For weeks, he'd close his eyes instinctively when walking through doorways, trusting his ears more than his vision. His brain had rewired itself, and it took months to wire it back. Chang Sheng's armless fighter became iconic, but the costume nearly broke him. The special rig that hid his arms required them to be strapped tightly against his torso, compressed under layers of padding and fabric. It looked seamless on camera. Off camera, it was torture. The compression cut off circulation within minutes. His fingers went numb. His shoulders ached constantly. And because the rig was so complex, once they strapped him in for a scene, he couldn't easily get out. He was trapped until someone freed him. During one particularly long shoot, a fight sequence in the rain, Chang spent over 6 hours in the rig. The wet fabric tightened even more, squeezing his chest until breathing became difficult. He didn't complain. He finished the scene, hitting every mark, delivering every line. When they finally cut him out of the costume, his arms were purple from restricted blood flow. The medic rushed over, but Chang waved him off, insisting he was fine. He wasn't. That night, alone in his room, Chang couldn't sleep. His arms throbbed. His shoulders felt like they'd been dislocated and reset. He seriously considered quitting, but the next morning, he showed up on set, climbed back into the rig, and kept going. Why? Because he believed in the character. He believed that if audiences saw real struggle, real determination, they'd believe the triumph. And he was right. His performance became legendary. But the legend was built on pain management and stubborn will. The deaf-mute blacksmith's son wasn't in the original script. The character, played by Wang Li, was a last-minute addition after Chang Che saw Wang performing at a Shaw Brothers screen test. Wang had trained in northern Shaolin Kung Fu and had an incredible physical presence, but he was struggling to land roles because his Cantonese wasn't strong. During the test, Wang performed a series of acrobatic kicks, and Chang had an idea. What if one of the crippled heroes couldn't speak? What if his disability was silence itself? It would solve Wang's language barrier and create a unique fighting style based purely on physical expression. The studio was skeptical. They said 4 crippled heroes was already pushing it. 5 seemed excessive, but Chang pushed back. He argued that the blacksmith's son represented something different. Not just physical trauma, but the silencing of voice, of agency. They gave him one condition. The character had to earn his place in the final fight. If test audiences didn't respond to him, they'd cut his scenes. Wang trained like his career depended on it, because it did. He developed a fighting style that combined acrobatics with raw power, using his muteness to create an unpredictable, almost feral energy. When test audiences saw him, they loved it. The character stayed. Wang's career launched, and all because a language barrier became a superpower. The final battle wasn't shot in sequence, and it nearly destroyed continuity. Fight choreography in kung fu films is typically filmed in order, allowing actors to build exhaustion naturally, showing wear and tear as the fight progresses. But production scheduling forced them to shoot the climax out of order over 3 separate weeks. They'd film the beginning 1 week, the middle 2 weeks later, the end last. The problem? Injuries. By the time they shot the ending, multiple actors were legitimately hurt. Philip Kwok's wrist was fractured. Chang Sheng had pulled a muscle in his back. Sun Qian had sprained his ankle. Lu Feng had a black eye from a missed block. But the earlier parts of the fight, shot weeks before, showed them fresh and uninjured. The continuity supervisor panicked. How do you match fight choreography when your actors are breaking down? Tang Chia, the stunt coordinator, had a solution. He redesigned the middle section to show the heroes getting progressively beaten up, adding moments where each character takes specific hits that would justify their later injuries. They filmed new inserts, close-ups of punches, landing, kicks connecting, to bridge the gap between healthy and hurt. It worked. On screen, the fight feels like a brutal, escalating war of attrition. The heroes get beaten down, but they keep fighting. Audiences never knew that the progression wasn't planned. It was real bodies breaking down in real time, covered up by genius choreography and creative editing. Sometimes the best movie magic is just adapting to reality. The iron rings weren't special effects. They were 50-pound torture devices. In the film, Du Tian-Dao punishes his enemies by locking massive iron rings around their heads, a cruel symbol of ownership and humiliation. The props department built them from actual iron, properly weighted to look authentic on camera. The problem? The actors had to wear them for hours during filming. The rings pressed down on shoulders, necks, and spines with relentless pressure. After 30 minutes, headaches started. After an hour, vision blurred. The actors couldn't eat properly, couldn't drink without assistance, couldn't turn their heads without the entire ring shifting and throwing off their balance. During one extended courtyard scene, 3 extras wearing the rings for background atmosphere all requested to be released early. One was vomiting from the pressure. Another had gone pale and couldn't stand straight. The third simply collapsed. The medic examined them and told Chang the rings were causing minor concussions from the sustained pressure. Chang's response? He cut the scene time in half, but kept the iron rings. He said replacing them with lighter foam replicas would ruin the authenticity. You can see it on screen. When the characters wearing those rings move, they move carefully, painfully. That's not acting, that's self-preservation. The weight is real, and so is the suffering. Lu Fang's iron boots became legendary, but they started as a mistake. The costume department built them too heavy, over-engineering the design with actual iron plating to create the right visual aesthetic. When Lu first tried them on, he could barely walk. Each boot weighed nearly 8 pounds, 16 pounds total, all concentrated on his feet and ankles. For a normal scene, that would have been absurd. But for a martial arts film requiring jumping, kicking, and extended fight choreography, it was impossible. Lu trained in them anyway. Every day for 2 weeks, he'd wear them for hours, building the leg strength to move naturally. His calves and thighs transformed, muscles bulging from the constant resistance training. By the time cameras rolled, Lu could execute full spinning kicks with those boots on. The power behind each strike was devastating. During one scene, he kicked through a wooden prop that was supposed to hold. It exploded into splinters. They had to rebuild it with reinforced interior supports. But here's the strange part. After filming Wrapped, Lu kept the boots. He said they'd become part of him, a physical reminder of what the body could adapt to under pressure. For years afterward, he'd use them in personal training, wearing them during morning runs, keeping his legs conditioned. Other actors asked to borrow them. Lu refused. Those boots had broken him down and built him back stronger. They were his. The brothel fight scene put someone in the hospital, and it wasn't planned. The sequence, where the heroes confront Du Tian-Dao's henchmen in a 2-story establishment, required complex wire work and multi-level choreography. Actors swinging from balconies, crashing through furniture, bodies flying everywhere. During one take, a wire snapped. Not frayed, not loosened, completely severed. The stunt performer hanging from it dropped 12 feet and landed on a wooden table that didn't break the way it was supposed to. The table held, his body didn't. The crack echoed through the set. Everyone froze. The stuntman wasn't moving. They rushed him to the hospital. Fractured vertebrae, severe bruising, possible internal bleeding. He survived, but his stunt career was over. The fall had compressed his spine in ways that would never fully heal. Production shut down for 3 days. The studio investigated, found the wire had been improperly secured by a new crew member who'd been hired to cut costs. That person was fired immediately. When filming resumed, they doubled all safety checks, replaced every wire in the rigging, and added padding beneath every fall zone. But the damage was done. Chang Che later said that accident haunted him more than any other moment in his career. The film's theme was about overcoming disability, and they'd accidentally created a real one. The irony was cruel and permanent. The Tea House Massacre wasn't in the original budget. Chang wanted an opening sequence that would immediately establish Du Tian-Dao's cruelty, but the studio said they couldn't afford another large set piece. The money had been allocated to the final battle, and that was it. Chang didn't argue. He just found a real tea house in Hong Kong, convinced the owner to let them film there for 1 day, and brought a skeleton crew. No permits, no official approval, just guerrilla filmmaking. They showed up at dawn, dressed the location, and started shooting. The owner watched nervously as they smashed furniture, threw actors through paper walls. and splattered fake blood across his floors. Chang promised they'd restore everything. They didn't have time. By noon, neighbors had called the police, reporting a violent disturbance. When officers arrived, they found a film crew, not a gang war, but they weren't happy. Chang talked fast, showed them his Shaw Brothers credentials, and somehow convinced them to let them finish. They had 2 hours. The crew worked like madmen, capturing the entire massacre sequence in a fraction of the planned time. When they wrapped, they threw money at the tea house owner for damages and disappeared before anyone could file official complaints. The studio found out later and was furious, but the footage was incredible. They kept it. That raw, frantic energy you feel in the opening, that's the energy of a director stealing a scene before the law shuts him down. Wang Li's silence on screen wasn't just a character choice. Off camera, Wang barely spoke to anyone. The other actors tried to include him in conversations, meals, downtime between shoots. Wang would smile, nod, but rarely engage. At first, they thought it was shyness or language barriers. Then they realized it was method acting taken to an extreme. Wang had decided that to truly embody a deaf-mute character, he needed to experience isolation, the disconnect of not participating in verbal communication. So, he stopped talking. For the entire production, Wang communicated through gestures, written notes, and facial expressions. Even at his hotel, he'd order food by pointing at menus. When the front desk called his room, he wouldn't answer. The other Venom mob actors found it unsettling. Chang Sheng later admitted they started to forget what Wang's voice sounded like. On the final day of filming, during the wrap party, someone asked Wang to give a speech. The room went silent. Everyone waited. Wang stood up, opened his mouth, and for several seconds, nothing came out. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked, raspy from weeks of disuse. He thanked the cast and crew in a halting, broken manner, then sat down. The commitment was absolute, but it came with a cost. Wang said it took him weeks after filming to feel comfortable in conversations again, to not feel like an outsider in vocal spaces. He'd rewired his social instincts, and rewiring them back hurt. The studio wanted a happy ending. Chang Che gave them devastation. In the original script, all 4 heroes were supposed to survive, triumphant over evil, perhaps even see Du Tiandao reform or face proper justice. The classic Shaw Brothers formula. Good guys win, bad guys lose, everyone goes home satisfied. Chang read it and said no. He told the studio that a story about disability and revenge couldn't end with sunshine. It had to end with cost, with the reality that some battles leave scars that never heal. The studio resisted. They said audiences wanted hope. Chang argued that hope didn't mean erasure of consequence. After weeks of back and forth, they compromised. The heroes would win, but not all of them would walk away. The final cut shows victory, but it's hollow, bitter. Bodies are broken. Lives are forever changed. And Du Tiandao's defeat doesn't undo what he's done. When test audiences saw it, some were angry. They wanted the villains punished more severely. Others found it too dark, too realistic. But many, especially those who understood the film's deeper themes, found it perfect. A story about people forced into disability didn't need a miraculous cure. It needed acknowledgement that they'd fought despite it and survived. The ending wasn't happy, but it was honest. And for Chang Che, honesty always mattered more than comfort. Shaw Brothers banned the film's training methods from future productions. After Crippled Avengers wrapped, the studio medical team compiled a report. Injuries sustained, recovery times, long-term damage. The numbers were staggering. Nearly every principal actor had required medical attention. Some injuries were permanent. The report concluded that the production had pushed human bodies beyond reasonable limits in pursuit of authenticity. New safety protocols were drafted. No more real weapons in close-quarters combat. No more extended periods in restrictive costumes without medical supervision. No more method acting that involved actual physical deprivation. Directors pushed back, arguing that this would soften their films, make them less credible. But the studio held firm. The line between dedication and damage had been crossed. Future Venom mob films would still feature incredible martial arts, but the behind-the-scenes suffering would be minimized. Ironically, this made Crippled Avengers even more unique. It became the film that couldn't be replicated, not because the story was too complex, but because the production methods were too dangerous. Modern audiences watch it and marvel at the realism, the weight, the authenticity. They're watching a document of controlled self-destruction, a film made by people willing to hurt themselves for art. And now, because of what they went through, no one else has to. The film's international success confused everyone, especially Shaw Brothers. They'd made it primarily for Asian markets, expecting Western audiences to reject it as too brutal, too strange, too focused on disability as subject matter. When it released in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Southeast Asia, it performed well, but not spectacularly. Then something unexpected happened. European distributors picked it up, retitled it, and it exploded. In France, cult cinema enthusiasts embraced it as a masterpiece of revenge tragedy. In Italy, it played midnight screenings to packed theaters. In Germany, martial arts clubs used it as a training philosophy example. The film's unflinching approach to disability resonated differently across cultures. Some saw it as exploitation, others saw it as empowerment. Critics were divided. Some called it tasteless. Others called it revolutionary. But everyone talked about it, and talk generated curiosity, which generated ticket sales. By the time American grindhouse theaters picked it up in the early 1980s, it had become a phenomenon Shaw Brothers never anticipated. They'd accidentally created a film that transcended cultural boundaries by being so specifically brutal that it became universally compelling. The studio tried to replicate the formula. They made sequels, spiritual successors, films with similar themes. None captured the same lightning, because Crippled Avengers wasn't a formula. It was a lightning strike that happened once. Lu Feng's character haunted him for years afterward. Playing a villain who deliberately cripples innocent people, who takes pleasure in mutilation, who represents absolute tyranny without remorse, it left psychological scars. Lu would have nightmares where he was Du Tian Dao, swinging blades, hearing screams. He'd wake up sweating, disturbed by his own subconscious. In interviews years later, Lu admitted that role changed how he viewed violence in cinema. Before Crippled Avengers, it was all choreography, performance, pretend. After, he understood that depicting cruelty required touching something dark inside yourself, and once you touch it, it doesn't fully leave. He became more selective about villain roles, turning down parts that required similar levels of sadistic pleasure. Some directors were frustrated, saying he was overthinking it, that it was just movies. But Lu knew better. He'd felt the difference between performing evil and channeling it had consequences. Despite this, Lu never regretted the role. He said Du Tian Dao was necessary, a character who showed what unchecked power and wounded pride could create. The performance launched his career to new heights. But success came with shadows, and some shadows, Lu learned, you carry forever. The film's legacy wasn't just in kung fu cinema. It influenced an entire generation of filmmakers across genres. Quentin Tarantino cited it as inspiration for revenge narratives, where justice is personal and brutal. The Wachowskis studied its fight choreography for The Matrix. Modern superhero films analyzing disability and power dynamics trace lineage back to this film's unflinching approach. But perhaps most significantly, it changed how martial arts cinema portrayed disability. Before Crippled Avengers, disabled characters were typically background figures, objects of pity or comic relief. This film made them warriors, heroes, agents of their own destiny. It said disability doesn't equal weakness, and adaptation is its own form of strength. That message resonated across decades. Physical therapists have used clips from the film to inspire patients. Disability rights activists have written essays analyzing its complex representation. Film schools teach it as an example of using genre conventions to explore deeper themes. 50 years later, it's still being discovered by new audiences who can't believe a film from 1978 went this hard, pushed this far. And every time someone watches it and thinks differently about limitation, about adaptation, about the human capacity to weaponize disadvantage, the film's legacy grows stronger. Chang Sheng's injury wasn't just for one film. During the final battle, while performing a complex flip in the restrictive armless costume rig, Chang landed wrong. His shoulder dislocated with an audible pop. They reset it on set, finished the scene, and assumed it was a one-time injury. It wasn't. The damage was deeper, the joint permanently weakened. For the next 3 Shaw Brothers films, Chang's character would mysteriously have one arm in a sling or injured, not because it was written that way, but because his shoulder kept dislocating during training. Directors worked around it, writing the injury into the plot. Audiences thought it was continuity. It was survival. That shoulder never fully healed. Years after retiring from action films, Chang would still feel it shift if he moved wrong. One performance, 3 movies, a lifetime reminder. Because in Kung Fu cinema, some roles you don't just play, you become them forever.